Now I also want to share with you the 3 themes, not things, themes, like movie themes. I'm putting this foundation in place because when we get back from lunch, we're going to launch right into these things, and you're going to begin to interact with them, and you're going to have an experience with them, and you're going to learn a lot very quickly, as you are this morning. But I want to teach you 3 themes to implement into your life. These are the 3 things we need to be aware of. I want to give you 3 themes to implement into your life. There are 3 very important themes that I believe if you registered or wrote down the name of anyone who you described that is living a great life, they have these 3 themes in their life already. So these are 3 very important themes that I believe that you implement in your life, you'll live a life a lot like you're picturing in your mind. Okay? So theme number 1. Theme number 1 is true abundance. Theme number 1 is true abundance. True abundance. Now I'm saying true abundance on purpose because if I just said abundance, what would most people think I'm talking about? Money. Just money. There's nothing wrong with money. We'll talk about that in a minute. But true abundance is something that's even bigger than just money in and of itself. True abundance. Theme number 1 is true abundance. Now I'm going to back up for something here because I want you to get this. Over the last several years, I mentioned earlier, I believe leadership has been distorted. I believe it's become a lot of things that I don't necessarily believe that it means. I think I've heard whoever has the most money is the leader. Whoever gets there first is the leader. Whoever has the most people following them is the leader. I'm not suggesting those aren't symptoms of a leader. I'm just suggesting those things by themselves don't make somebody a leader. Does that make sense? What I'm suggesting is the highest form of leadership is living a life of true abundance. The highest form of leadership is living a life of true abundance. And I'm going to define that for you. I define true abundance with one word. The highest form of leadership in life is living a life of true abundance. And I define true abundance with one word. The one word is balance. Balance. True leadership is living a life of true abundance. True abundance is living a life of balance. How many of you like to have more balance in your life? Absolutely. You look around anywhere on this planet, that's almost the number one thing that's missing everywhere, balance. I often have people even ask me, Keith, I want more balance. How do I get more balance in my life? That's what true abundance is. True abundance is balance. You say, okay, Keith, a balance of what? I'm glad you asked. A balance of the 5 elements of true abundance. I'm going to give them to you. True leadership is living a life of true abundance. True abundance is balance. A balance of what? The 5 elements of true abundance. Number 1 is faith. You got to have balance in your faith. That's number 1. You got to have balance in your faith. Faith, for me, has 2 sides. Faith, our spiritual person, as we often hear faith, our spiritual being, what we believe, for me, it's God. Our faith, what we believe as a spiritual person. And the other half is faith is what we believe is possible. That kind of faith. That we have balance in our faith, number 1. Number 2, that we have balance in our foundation. This is an out-of-balance foundation that we described earlier, that we have balance in the stories of what we believe is true, that we have a healthy foundation, that we have a balance of who we are in our foundation, that we're not out of balance with all these stories that don't serve us. A balance of the 5 elements. Number 1 is faith. Number 2 is foundation. Number 3 is finances. How many of you like to have more balance in your finances? Absolutely. We all, I'm sure, would. We got to have balance in our finances. We got to learn to do that. Now, money, you probably noticed this or not. I have. People get funny when you talk about money. Have you noticed that? See, the number 1 area of everything that most people go for in their life is money. They think money is the absolute end-all, be-all. And I'm not suggesting it's not important. I'm just suggesting it's part of the 5 that are equally important. You got to have balance in. You know, just because you have $1 billion in the bank, if you're bankrupt in your foundation or in your faith, you're not a leader, in my opinion. You got to balance on all those things in your finances as well. I'm going to tell you this: finances is also probably the number 1 area where people are out of balance in the world today. Because we pursue that more than anything else. And I told you earlier, actually, money is the easiest of the 5 elements to create. Because it's the most tangible, it's the most measurable, it's the easiestly counted. It's all of those things. And maybe we'll come back to that a little bit later. But we got to have balance in our finances, okay? Number 4, balance in your relationships. What relationships you are in to begin with. And the ones that you are in, where are they at in their balance? Whether they're your family, your spouse, your kids, your faith, your coworkers, your associates, or personal relationships. You got to have balance in your relationships. And number 5, you got to have balance in your health. Your health, of course, is your fitness and your nutrition. Those are the 5 elements of true abundance. See, true leadership is living a life of true abundance. True abundance is balance. A balance in your faith, your foundation, your finances, your relationships, and your health. That's what true abundance is. We got to have that in our lives. We got to go for that, not go for one piece or the other. Most people chase money. Out of all 5 things, the one that most people chase the most is the financial piece, because they tell themselves if we can just get that, then they'll have the balance they're looking for. Well, I know you've read about them, you've seen them on TV, I've met them, I've worked with some of them. You meet people that get there, and when they get there, they have that one little thing they think that was going to bring everything in their life, and what happens? It doesn't bring in the fulfillment they thought it was going to bring. You want to know why? It only brought them one area of the 5 that would create a true abundance of fulfillment in their life. That's what we're working for. That's what true leadership is. So theme number 1, you got to understand that. You got to understand that true abundance is what you want to pursue. Now, everything you want in your life or in your business falls under the umbrella of one of those 5 elements. Everything you want. But you say, Keith, I thought there were 3 themes. There are. We're going to get to the other 2 in a moment. But everything you say you want is all under theme number 1, which is true abundance. Now, there's something else I want to throw out here with true abundance for you, because I want you to get this, because it's very important. Now, this might push your limits a little bit, but I'm just going to ask you to be open for a few moments, all right? Just going to ask you to be open for a few moments today and tomorrow. If you don't like it, you can go right back to how you were thinking before you came in here tomorrow. No problem. Is that a fair enough deal, yes or no? Here's something I want you to understand about true abundance. I just want you to be open to it for a moment. True abundance was designed to chase you. Did you know that? True abundance was designed to chase you. But what do we spend most of our lives doing? We spend most of our lives chasing it. And which part of it the most? The money part of it. I asked earlier about a dog. We talked about dogs. Let me ask you this. How many of you have ever seen a dog chase its tail? What does that look like? This is a cycle. Let me ask you this. Does a dog ever really catch its tail? One of 2 things happens. Either grabs its tail and yipes, has to let go and it starts doing it again. Or it chases its tail, grabs it, tries to hold on to it, then it falls over, yipes, and lets go, and then what does it start doing again? The very same thing. How many people have met somebody outside this room that their entire life, marriage or business, looks exactly like this? It's like a perpetual cycle. It doesn't have to be that way. That's not the way it was designed. Let me show you what it's designed to do. What I like to help people do is this. Slow down, bring it to a halt, and show you is actually designed to go the other way. True abundance was designed to chase you. We were given life, and we were given life to have more abundantly. It was designed to chase us. It says when you seek first an attitude of service, when you seek serving people above everything else, all other things will be added unto you. You ever heard something like that before? But it's about what do you keep first? Are you keeping service first? And I can tell you this, all greatness has something to do with serving. Serving is part of all greatness, and greatness is part of serving. Your greatness, no matter what it is, has something to do with serving. Is your business a serve? Absolutely. Could traveling be a serving? Absolutely. Is teaching and training serving? Absolutely. All greatness is linked to serving. So what I'm suggesting is there is one small string attached to true abundance chasing you like, oh, Keith, I knew it. There's always a string attached to the good stuff. Here's the string. The true abundance that I'm talking about was designed to chase you in your purpose, not your plan. Did y'all catch that? The true abundance I'm talking about was designed to chase you in your purpose or your greatness. Purpose and greatness are the exact same word for me, not your plan. Think about that. So the true abundance I'm talking about was designed to chase you when you are walking in your greatness. But what happens is we're often trying to help things out. We're often only working on the surface of life. We're trying to make it all happen on our own. We're chasing the one thing out of bounds. We're chasing the money, the financial part of things. We're out of bounds. We can't figure out why it's not working because we're more concerned with making money than we are with serving people. We're more concerned with getting a promotion than we are about helping somebody's life. We're more concerned with getting a particular reward than we are about truly serving somebody with what we could help them with in their lives, whether it be a product, a service, a teaching, a training, whatever it may be. I can tell you what, when you put people back at the top priority, serving people, you will not be able to keep true abundance from finding you. So true abundance, balance, in all 5 areas. And it's not about working on one and trying to work on another one. It's about kind of like, how do you kind of bring them all up together? Does that make sense? The finances, the spiritual, the foundation, the relationships, the health. It's kind of like a table. Table had like 5 legs. You know, you can't shoot one up and the table would slip and it'd slide. You do want to try to grow them all. Now, guess what? By some people outside this room, that would be called boring. Well, Keith, why don't you shoot one up? That'd be really exciting because everybody would see it. It'd be really tall. Well, I know, but it wouldn't last for long. It'd be seasonal at best. What I want to do is I want to grow all 5 legs. You know, it's not that they're going to be all equal all the time, but they'll all be close enough that you could have a tabletop on them and it wouldn't slide off, and they'll all grow together. Then what begins to happen? Everything begins to move in your life up to a higher level, not just one area. That's what true abundance looks like. True abundance is balance in all areas. In all areas of your life, begin to move forward together, and you begin to create momentum. You begin to create results that are attached that you can't stop from coming even if you wanted them to come. And then guess what people are going to want to know? What makes you different? Because you understand, true abundance was designed to chase you. So I want you to know that. It's theme number 1. You've got to understand it, or at least be open to it. You don't have to understand it if you don't want to. I hope you do. I hope you'll be open to it. But when you can get that about true abundance, and you make it all about serving, that'll be part of your greatness, and the true abundance will chase you. I'm going to tell you, it's pretty exciting when true abundance chases you. Because, like, you know, you get on that spot, let's say this is your greatness area, and when you get there, all of a sudden, true abundance overtakes your life. True abundance is like a heat-seeking missile. The moment you step in your greatness, the heat-seeking missile gets locked on you and fired. And then you can't outmove it. Wherever you move, it's going to follow you. It's like you see on TV or in one of the movies, you know, it's like, all of a sudden, boom, it takes you over. How exciting would that be? Would that be something different than maybe what you're experiencing right now today? Yes or no? Would that be exciting? Yes or no? Again, calm down a little bit. I don't want anybody to get too excited about this. I don't want anybody to get too overwhelmed with this. That's how true abundance works. Now, I did tell you, the only thing that we have to do is to get into position of our greatness. That's the only thing we need to do. When we get into the position of our greatness, true abundance will chase us. That's theme number 1, true abundance, a balance in all 5 areas. That's the highest form of leadership. The only thing that we need to do to experience it is to get into that position. So what's the next common question that most people would ask? How do you get in that position? Thank you for asking. I told you there were 3 themes. Theme number 1 is true abundance. Everything that we want is under that umbrella. Theme number 2 and theme number 3 are positioning devices for true abundance. Isn't that good to know that there's positioning devices to help us get into that spot? I've needed them in my life. It's very difficult for us to get there all by ourselves. I have had to use both of these positioning devices in my life to help me get there. Because if here's where I am, and that's where I want to be, I got to figure out how am I going to get there. So that's what theme number 2 and 3 are. They're positioning devices for true abundance. Theme number 2 is mentorship. Mentorship. Mentorship Mastery and mentorfish.com are just not clever names for a company. Mentorship is an absolute way of life. Mentorship is a positioning device for true abundance. Mentorship is an accelerator. Mentorship is like wisdom without the pain. Wouldn't that be nice? Mentorship is allowing someone else's hindsight to become your foresight. You ever heard hindsight's 20/20? Of course we have. Well, guess what? So is foresight when you're standing next to somebody else's hindsight. That's what mentorship is. It's an accelerator. It's a positioning device for true abundance. Why would you try to get there all by yourself if you could get around somebody or some content that would help you be able to accelerate that progression? Why would you take 30 years to do something on your own that you could do in 3 if you're around the right people, the right content, and the right knowledge? That's what mentorship is. It is an accelerator. It teaches you and shows you how to get on that position. I don't care who they are. You name any great person that's done any great life that they've lived. If I don't already know by heart, I will find out and I will tell you who their mentor was because they had one. People who live really great lives interact with this type of education on a daily basis. And they're trained with it by a mentor, which is the highest form of this education. If I don't know them, I'll find them. I'll name them. They all had a mentor because it was an acceleration. I met my first mentor when I was 18 years old, and everything's changed in my life from that moment on. I grew up financially without. When I met my first mentor, he started telling me about abundance and about prosperity and increase and balance in life and success principles that would be maintained in all areas of my life if I implemented them continually and consistently. See, mentorship's not just a clever name. It's an absolute way of life. It's a lifestyle. When I first met him, I met him at his house after we met. He spoke one time. I ran down and met him afterwards. Met him at his house. He's come, when you get to Tulsa, look me up. When I got to Tulsa, I looked him up. Said, I got to be around you. I wanted to get position. I knew he had wisdom. I knew he had knowledge. I knew he had things that I did not have. And I wanted to get around him so I could get positioned for that place in my life. And he let me in, slowly but surely. I started by cutting his grass, cleaning his pool. That got me access to him. He started training me, challenging me. He got me breakfast with him and his wife every morning at 7 to 7:30 that I could get there. Then I would go on to my chores for the day. And he would train me, she would train me, and they would grow me. They showed me how to get positioned. What were they training me on? How to get positioned into my greatness, how to unlock, the same thing we're talking about right now, how to unlock what that is in me, how to get in that position so that true abundance would chase me. They taught me how not to chase money, how not to chase anything particular, but how to chase serving people. And that's what began to change everything in my life. You know, it's really cool. I just got confirmation yesterday that in our June keynote, for those of you that are Mentorfish, he just confirmed he's going to be in our Mentorfish community for the first time ever. I met him 18 years ago. 18 years later, he's going to be meeting you. And we're going to do an interview with him. He's coming in next week to do our interview for our webcast in June. And it's going to be phenomenal. It'll be as great, if not even greater, than Sharon. And so it's going to be a huge honor for me, so many years later, to bring him back in and teach him and teach you everything he taught me. Wouldn't that be awesome? He runs one of the world's largest structures of teaching and training of its type anywhere in the world. So he began to train me how to speak, train me how to think, train me how to act, train me my integrity, train my faith. He got me in that position. It was a positioning device. You know, you got to ask yourself this question. How many of you I'll ask you first, how many of you have never heard the word mentor before? You've probably all heard the word mentor somewhere before. How many of you even knew it had a little bit of value attached to it? Yeah, probably. But then you have to ask yourself, okay, then I would ask you, why don't you have a mentor? Do you have a mentor? The first answer I always get from most people is, no, I don't. That's the number one answer I get. And I say, well, why don't you have a mentor? If you think about it, if you understand what it is and you see the value of it, then you got to ask yourself, well, why don't I have one? Because why would you try to do something on your own that could be done in 3 years if you had the right mentor? Don't make yourself wrong, but say, hey, why don't I have one? I'm going to suggest, if you don't have a mentor in your life, I'm going to say there's as much love and compassion as I can, but if you don't have a mentor in your life, you're lying to yourself and everybody else about how serious you are about getting where you want to go. If you understand what it is, you understand the power of it, you understand how to, maybe you don't understand how to get in a relationship, but maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later today or tomorrow. How many of you would create value for you if you learned how to find a mentor? What is a mentor? How do you find one? How do you get in a relationship? How do you maintain that relationship? Would that be important, valuable information? Yes or no? Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow then some. Maybe that's why. But you've got to get in a relationship with a mentor. It's going to accelerate everything. I remember years ago, we got our first Apple store here in Tulsa, which we didn't get it as soon as some people did, but we've had it for a while now. But it was really cool when they first came out. You got to play with all the computers. You got to go check them all out. My buddy had bought a Mac. Said, you're going to love this, Keith, when you see what it does. You got to come check it out. You got to come to the store. You can actually use the computers there and try them out before you take them home. It was like unheard of back then. So we went there, and he's like, man, check this out. He opens up the computer, starts doing it, only he can't remember how to make it do what he wanted to show me because he only bought his 2 weeks prior. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty neat, buddy. And I'm like, okay, 10 minutes have gone by. He still hadn't figured it out. I'm like, okay, why don't we ask that guy over there? He actually had a shirt on that says, if you ask me, I will help. So why don't we ask that guy over there? He'll help us, and he can show it. Then maybe I'll buy a Mac then. He goes, no, I'll figure it out. It was a buddy of mine. So I gave him another 10 minutes. 20 minutes had gone by. Still could not figure it out. So now I said, sir, would you come over here? I could barely get it out of my mouth and said, he's trying to show me this. And he goes, oh, you mean this? And he goes, boop. And the whole thing goes, whoosh. I'm like, oh, that is awesome. That's amazing. But you want to know what's even more awesome than that? He did less than 20 seconds, what you couldn't do in more than 20 minutes. I pick him. True story. But think about it. Why don't we do that in our life? That guy did in less than 20 seconds what my buddy couldn't do in 20 minutes. And I wasted 20 minutes of my life standing there. How often are we doing the very same thing in our lives? You've got to have a mentor in your life. Why would we take 30 years to do something we could be doing in 3 if we get around the right people, the right content, the right knowledge? Don't make it longer than it needs to be. You're going to learn plenty on your own as well, but let somebody else's hindsight become your foresight. Get that relationship in your life. Up until 2.5 years ago, I had 5 mentors, 5 that I met with monthly. 5 that I met with monthly. 2 of them I met with twice a month. 2 of them I met with once a month. And 1 of them I met with twice a week. That's how committed I was, because I pursued that knowledge and wisdom more than anything. That's what mentorship is really about, pursuing wisdom and knowledge. That's beyond where you're at. I just was texting one of my mentors last night from the past. I said, listen, I got to get my dose. I got to get my dose. Well, I know we haven't visited officially in a mentoring relationship, but I got to get my dose because I'm finding out we got some big things coming up, and my mind has to be stretched, and I know you've been in the billionaire status before. I need to talk to you again. He said, great, I'm flying back. Let's get together next week. So I'm going to get some acceleration. I'm going to get some insight from somebody that's well beyond where I want to be on how to manage a billion-dollar mentality. He's going to stretch my mind again. I need to get stretched. I need to get into my life. That's the value of mentorship. I reached out. He's going to connect with me. I'm going to connect with him. You got to have that in your life as well. Some people will say, Keith, well, my mentor's name is, and you give me a name of a person. That's the second answer I get. Well, so-and-so is my mentor. I say, okay, well, wonderful. What's the last result that you have produced with so-and-so? Well, I don't know if we produce any results or not. I think we're just kind of learning right now. I'm like, okay, well then great. Then I want to, based on how I define the art of mentorship, I'm going to suggest that you don't have a mentor, you have something else. Because the art of mentorship, the art of mentoring is a two-way results-producing relationship. The protege helps the mentor produce results, and the mentor helps the protege produce results. There's results that are taking place in a two-way direction. Now, I'm not suggesting you have something bad. I'm just suggesting you don't have mentorship based on how I define it. So maybe you have a consultant. Maybe you have an advisor. Maybe you have a confidant. Maybe you have a best friend or something like that. So I'm not saying it's useless. I'm just saying it's not what I define as mentorship, because mentorship is a two-way results-producing street. So ask yourself, if somebody's name came to your mind, say, what's the last result we produced together? If you're not producing results, it's something different. Not necessarily bad, just not as effective as mentorship could be, because it's a results-producing relationship. Some people, well, my friend is my mentor. Well, let me explain something to you. Your friend is your cheerleader. Your mentor is your coach. There's a big difference. Your friend's going to be comfortable with you being comfortable because they want to stay comfortable whether they know it or not. Your mentor is going to be uncomfortable with you being comfortable because they know discomfort is linked to you getting where you want to go. Do y'all follow that? There's a big difference. There's a big difference. You know, and mentoring and coaching for some people is different. Some people go, Keith, what's the difference between coaching and mentoring? For me, a coach will tell you what you're not doing, a mentor will tell you why you're not doing it. That's for me. For some people, it's semantics. But if you have something that's producing results, then great. That's what we're talking about. But if you don't, you got to ask yourself, why not? Because see, mentorship is a results-producing relationship that will get you positioned in that place of greatness. That's how you get positioned for true abundance. The best way to get positioned in a place is to talk to somebody that's already been in that place. What's it going to look like? That's what my mentors do for me. I'm like, that's where I want to be, but I'm over here. They're like, Keith, you need to get over there. They come up behind me. They encourage me. They teach me. They show me. I build trust. They go, Keith, get right here. I'm like, this seems really scary. This doesn't feel very comfortable because what if I fail? What if I look stupid? What if I get embarrassed? They said, that's okay. Just wait there. And I begin to get scared. I want to step backwards. Anybody ever want to step back from something? You ever had that experience in your life? I want to step back, but my mentors are right here. No. Hold on. Wait. In the last minute, they jump out of the way. And guess what happens? True abundance overtakes my life. And what's really cool about my mentors is, because part of their greatness is mentoring somebody like me, they jump over here, which is right at their thing. More greatness hits their life, and more true abundance hits their life. Because that's how it goes. When you're walking in your greatness, you cannot keep true abundance from chasing you. Isn't that good news? That's a little different than maybe you've heard before, yes or no? It's designed to chase you. All you got to do is get in that position of greatness. How do you get there? Number one way, which is number two theme, mentorship. Mentorship. That was the vision I got 8 years ago, to bring back the art of mentorship to the current marketplace and society at a mass level that we could bring back and influence thousands, if not millions of people's lives through the art of mentoring. Now that gives you a little bit more background on what Mentorship Mastery is and what mentorfish.com is. That's what it is. I created it, a tool that emulates and simulates the exact relationships that I have still with my mentors and that I've had. Daily interaction, weekly interaction, monthly interaction, quarterly interaction, biannual interaction, yearly interactions, all put in place to help you move forward. Because I had to have it. It's a positioning device. That's theme number two. Theme number one is true abundance. A balance of the 5 elements. Faith, foundation, finances, relationships, and health. Everything we want is under one of those two, theme number one. Theme number 2 and 3 are positioning devices for theme number 1. Number 2 is mentorship. Unbelievable. I could teach on it for the rest of the day today and tomorrow, probably for another week. Maybe we'll talk more about it tomorrow if you like you mentioned. How do you find a mentor? How do you get in a relationship with one? How do you maintain that relationship with one? Very powerful way to get positioned. Theme number 3 is even more powerful than theme number 2. And you saw how excited I got about mentorship. Theme number 3 is called the tug. T-U-G. The tug. T-U-G. The tug. It stands for your true ultimate guide. T-U-G. Your true ultimate guide. For some of you, you may call it your intuition. For some of you, it might be instinct. For some of you, it might be your gut, which is tug spelled backwards, by the way. That feeling that you get. Before I go any further, how many of you can relate to what I'm talking about before I even describe it? You've had that feeling somewhere in your life at one time or another. Yes or no? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That tug. It's the true ultimate guide. The tug's job is to get you positioned in that place of greatness. So it's like, there's the greatness. Here I am in my life over here. And all of a sudden, something starts tugging. Keith, that's where you want to go. It's like the tug is the gravitational field. This is how I often say it. The tug is the gravitational field around your greatness. Its job is to keep you as close to it as you will allow it. Now, you did hear that little string, as you will allow it. The tug is like the gravitational field around your greatness. Its job is to keep you as close to it as you will allow it. It's a positioning device. And it's more accurate than the most powerful GPS system you could ever get your hands on. But what we have to do is learn how to trust the tug, because that's what it is. It's a true ultimate guide. For me, that true ultimate guide is God. So let's do this analogy here. That's where I want to be. Here's where I am. The tug is kind of like a rope tied around my waist, and all of a sudden the other end is hooked to the source. Like I said, I call the source God, and it begins to tug me into this direction. But I don't know where I'm going, but it's tugging me. It's like, Keith, you should go over there. And so I start to go, but then I look up and there's people watching me. I'm like, wait a second. I don't know how it's all going to look here. I don't even know how it's going to work out. That didn't even make sense to me. So what do? I grab onto that rope, and what do? We get into a tug of war with the very thing that's trying to position us for true abundance. And we start tugging back on it. Some of us will even dig our heels in. Some of us will even put our feet up on the door jambs and we'll scream, no, I'm not going there. Because we tell ourselves it's so scary or we're so afraid. But what we really need to do is let go of it and follow that instinct and follow that tug, because what's going to do is it's going to position you right in that place where true abundance will take you over. Just like that. Now, I have had times in my life where things have been very exciting with many, many people around me. They're all getting involved in something, maybe a business deal, an investment. And so I'm like, well, hey, all my friends are, all my associates are, so maybe I should do the same thing. So I go to jump in, and my tug says, wait, Keith, that's not for you. That's not for you. So my tug tells me to back away. I'm like, wait, that does not make any sense. Everybody I know is doing it. But my tug says, Keith, that's not for you. So I do my best to follow my tug. Now, one of two things always happens when that happens. Anybody have any idea what that might be? When I follow my tug to stay away from it, one of two things always happens. What do you think the first one is? It doesn't work out. Number one thing. Oftentimes it doesn't work out. That's one thing that often happens when everybody, and I said, no, it often doesn't work out the way they think it was going to, or it may not have turned out how I thought it was going to. But I'm not suggesting that everything that I'm not a part of doesn't work. So that's sometimes what happens. Or the second thing happens. Either I get tugged not to be involved, so I don't, and it goes wonderfully well for them, but then a bigger opportunity comes down my path a month or two later that's even bigger and greater, but I would not have been able to participate in this one if I had been in that one. Does that make sense? So you see, my tug was positioning me, even though that looked great, it was still positioning me for something that was even greater if I could follow it. Now, there have been other times that the tug works in the opposite direction. Like, I've had this happen in real estate, where there's a real estate opportunity or property or something like that, and 83 people run away from it. They're like, no, this is horrible. So I'm like, I'm not going to mess with it then if they all ran away from it. And all of a sudden, my tug says, no, that's for you. I'm like, wait a second, tug, 83 people just ran away from it. So why would they be running away from it if it's so great? And my tug says, well, they're running away from it because it's yours, not theirs. So why don't you shut your mouth and listen? I don't know how your tug talks to you, but mine talks to me that way sometimes. So then I go over and I seize the opportunity, and then something happens, or I see something different, or something different takes place that they never could have predicted, maybe I never could have predicted, but all of a sudden I get to reap the benefits of it. Ever had that happen in your life? Yeah. So sometimes it works in that direction. The key is, do we know how to follow it? Do we have a relationship built with it? We've got to learn how to trust our tug, because it will work for you. We can all think about, I can tell you, like you raised your hand a moment ago, we can all think of times, at least one time in our life, where we felt what I'm talking about. It made no sense at all, but yet you followed it, and what happened? Something great. Something you figured it out, and something happened you never could have planned. Then there's been other times where our tug has tugged us to do something and we didn't do it, and we wish we would have. Or our tug tugged us not to do, but we did it anyways, and we wish we wouldn't have. See, we all can relate to what I'm talking about. The key is, if we can develop and cultivate that relationship, that won't be the one time you sit around and talk about for the next 20 years. You can have that situation on a monthly, weekly, daily basis if you learn how to dial into that tug. And you learn how to trust your tug. Now people go, well, how do you do that? Well, that's session 11 in our Greatness Bootcamp. It's called tug training. How do you build that relationship with your tug? It's just like any other relationship, though. The more you cultivate it, the more valuable it'll become for you. If you're not cultivating, why would you know its voice when it talks to you? It's like any other relationship. I could call somebody up right now and I'd be like, hey, this is Keith Kochner. Who? Keith Kochner with Mentorship Mastery, Mentorfish. Oh, Keith, hey, how are you? But after I got to know some of you, I go and say, hey, how's it going? You're like, hey, Keith, it's going great. Because you know what? You know my voice. Same thing with the tug. You get familiar with it, you're going to know what it feels like, you're going to know what it doesn't feel like. Now, I'm going to give you one disclaimer here before we go to lunch, but I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to give you one big thing that you can think about at lunch. People go, how do I know? How do I know? Well, here's how you know it's not your tug. Here's how you'll know it's not your tug. So this will help you disqualify it very quickly. Your tug will never tug you out of balance. Your tug will never tug you out of balance. I'm not suggesting it won't stretch you, but being stretched and broken are two totally different things. Your tug will never tug you out of balance. If it's something that's pulling you out of balance in your faith, your foundation, your finances, your relationship, or your health, it's not your tug, it's your entitlement. So I get really high octane right before lunch. So you got to think about that. For example, in my world, if I'm doing investing, well, I have a certain place that I use for investing, a certain level of income that I use for investing, my investment income. Somebody comes to Keith, well, this is a huge deal. It's unbelievable. It's going to have to take my investing, my food income, and my business income, all these other areas of income. But I got to like throw it all in. But this is a great opportunity. It's so big, Keith. You won't miss. It's one in a lifetime deal, but it's going to take everything. And I'm like, oh, you know what? This could be it. This could be it. I'm going to throw everything in. Is that my tug? No, because my tug's tugging me out of balance at a place that would become a liability. So I'm not going to go there. So I automatically know. If it's going to tug me out of balance, it's not my tug, because my tug doesn't tug me out of balance. It's something else. It probably would be my greed. It would be my entitlement, trying to get a bigger return than what's really possible in the amount of time and the risk that's involved with it. So I pass up on it. So your tug will never tug you out of balance. Let me give you an analogy. Here it is. Let's say we all climb a tree. I'm not too terribly excited about heights, but let's say we all climb a tree. We're about 25 feet up in the air, like where the roof is at. And we're on this big branch. Now, if you're like me, you'll be like this. I'm going to be hugging the trunk of the tree. I'm going to sit on a branch, okay? That's where we're at. That's where we're all at right now. Here's how the tug works. The tug is going to tug you out onto the branch, okay? It's going to happen. The tug is going to tug you out onto the branch, but watch this. It's not going to tug you out on the branch at a faster pace than the width of the branch is growing to hold your weight. Did you catch that? That's not often what we like to hear, because what we like to go, oh, the tug, we like to jump to the end of the branch. Like that. What happens? Snap. And we fall down. No problem, because you can get back up, you climb right back up, you can do it again. Because that's what it is. You get up, you can do it again. I got it. But I'm going to tell you what, it is going to tug you, but be aware of this. You'll know if it's your tug. Your tug's not going to tug you to the end of the branch. It's going to tug you out on the branch at the pace of the width of the branch can hold your weight, so it doesn't snap from underneath of you. It's going to stretch you. It's still going to be scary. I don't care how thick the branch is. It's still scary to get away from the trunk of the tree. Your tug's going to stretch you. It will stretch you. It's going to position you for something that's maybe different than what you're experiencing right now in your life. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be a stretch. It's not going to be a broke. It's not going to be out of balance. So that's one big way you can disqualify your tug. Your tug will not tug you out of balance. What you're thinking, is this my tug or not? If it's going to pull you out of balance, it's not your tug. It's something else, most likely greed or entitlement. Which for me, greed falls underneath entitlement. So for me, it almost always comes back down to entitlement. Trying to do something to get somewhere faster than what's naturally possible. I'm not saying there aren't seasons of acceleration. I love it. I love marathons. There's pace. There's a time to sprint, but it's never at the beginning. That's what people don't like to hear. I want to be successful now. I want everything now. I want my business to be huge now. Well, I do too. But it's progression over time, years, 36 months and longer. And those business principles and those life principles haven't changed and won't change. The key is, are you going to implement them, or are you going to keep on ignoring them and try to put something else in place on the surface of your life versus looking at the foundation of your life and putting these principles in there?